I'm one of the many newbies that is here today for the first time.
You're all so old. You have no idea how old you are.
And so I was wondering, I've been following Abraham teachings for a while, and I'm wondering what it is that we want changes kind of frequently. And so, for example, for the last, I've got a really good job that I like. I'm a professor. And for the last 6 months or so, I've decided that the current college that I teach at, there's a lot of cool things about it, but I want to be in a bigger city and move to a different job. And when I made that decision, I was really cool with it. And now I can't decide where that is. Like, 1 minute I'll decide, oh, I'm going to be in Las Vegas next year. And then the next minute I'm thinking, oh, I want to be in like a little small town in some place. And the question, I guess, it comes from the fact that other things that I thought I wanted changed too. Like, I thought I used to want to lose 25 pounds and have like really great abs or something, and now I'm like, I really don't care about abs, and I kind of like my belly. Am I getting lazy or something? It's like I've been following Abraham's teachings and like, be happy about the things that you have, and so I'm like, who cares when that girlfriend is going to come? It's okay.
There are so many things we want to say to you. Let's start in a foundational place here. The first easy answer to the why do I keep changing my mind is because you keep finding yourself on different vibrational discs, and so the ideas that flow to you are varied. That's part of it. When you consistently find a good feeling vibration and you practice it there on purpose, then you begin feeling a momentum, is our favorite word, a momentum that is taking you generally in the same direction, so you're not moving all around. So did you follow that? When you find yourself really jumping from, well, maybe I want that and maybe I want that, it's because you're not in the vibrational place where you're getting inspiration from that broader point of view. Now here's why. So everything that you've been asking for, you've been putting into this vortex, and the vortex, this vibrational reality, has been spinning and churning and gathering unto itself cooperative components, and usually you're the last of the cooperative components to join it, but nevertheless it's there. Another way of saying it is your inner being, who has become the equivalent of all that you've been asking for, knows exactly what you're reaching for, because that part of you has already become it. So another way of saying it is, we like to put ourselves in your vortex, in that category. We know who you've become, we know where everything you want is, and we know the path of least resistance from our point of view that will lead you to it, and even more important, we know where you stand in relationship to it. So we're offering constant impulses to help you find your way to where you want to be. That's why sometimes you feel like you want to do that, and other times you feel like you want to do something else. Sometimes you're tapped in to that enthusiastic knowledge that the source within you is inspiring, and sometimes you're not. And so it's to the degree of your alignment that causes those fluctuations. When you realize that you get to create your own reality, and that if this time-space reality has the wherewithal to inspire something within you, it has the wherewithal to deliver it, then it sort of kind of makes you want to be more high-minded in your thoughts. Now, there are only two ways to bring yourself into alignment. Let's talk about this fiscally. Let's say that you have a budget that you're trying to accomplish, which means earn more money or spend less money in order to accomplish the budget. And so that's sort of the mindset that a lot of people have about things. So then you want to translate that to desires and beliefs. So if I have these desires and my beliefs are in alignment with those desires, then I feel good. But if I have these desires and my beliefs oppose those desires, then I don't feel so good. So humans translate their fiscal cluelessness, we love you so much, we do, to a sort of vibrational misunderstanding too, by saying, well, I want this thing that I can't figure out how to have, so I'm just going to talk myself out of wanting it. And you think That seems logical. If I want it and I don't believe it, well, then I should just stop wanting it, and then I'd come back into balance. But the thing that makes that not work is that there's no regression. You can't pull back from the expansion that life has caused you to accomplish. You can only move forward. So what were the things that you were speculating?
About where I wanted to live for my next job. I live now in Alabama in like a college town, and so it's like one day I'll think, oh, I want to live somewhere in like a really small town in the woods in the Appalachian Mountains, and then a couple days later I'm like, I'm gonna go to Vegas. And it's just it seems really weird to me that I just keep changing my mind.
Well, for sure what you're reaching for is something that is new, and this is going to sound odd maybe, and even irritating to those of you who are coming looking for answers. But we just have to say to you, unless you're on the high-flying disc, the answer that we give you doesn't make any sense. We can't find a way to say to you that you don't want either one of those things. You push yourselves hard because you're not tuned into the energy, and then you become exhausted, and all you want to do is lay down. And then after you've laid down for a while, all you want to do is get up, because you're tired of laying down. And so most people are living their life sort of like that. They get tired and they rest, and then they get tired of resting, and so you go from overwhelmment to boredom and overwhelmment to boredom, and that's sort of what you were describing there. I go to Vegas where it's fast moving. I want to go to the Appalachian Mountains where nothing is going on. But that's an action orientation to life that has nothing to do with anything that we're talking about here. Because what we're talking about here is tuning in to the frequency of who you really are, and then following the ideas that come. And sometimes you're doing that, and that's when those life-giving, really good feeling ideas come, and then you talk yourself out of those because, and almost everybody does it, when you think about something that you want, and then you define how you're going to do it, where it's going to come from, who's going to bring it, when it's going to come, and since you don't know the answers to those questions, you just introduce resistance, 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 resistance to the equation till you don't even want to go. But when you talk about what you want and you think about why you want it, you imagine doing it and being there and how it would feel to be in that. Now, can you feel the life-giving qualities of that? And what we're proposing here, what we are submitting, what we are knowing for sure, is that when you get on that high-flying disc and you dream like that, you imagine like that, you think those thoughts like that, until you've practiced that trajectory enough, until that's the dominant vibration that you've got going on, and that's the momentum that you've got going, then everything gets swept up in that momentum, and that's something that happens with ease. You don't shoot yourself in the foot by how, where, when, and that sort of thing. Did that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Be easy about it and give this thing 30 days, really, and watch what happens. Because we said to you that we know what's in your vortex and we know where you are. And so we're going to give you some advanced announcements of some things that we know for sure about you. You are really good at what you do and like it when you're actually doing it. And when you are in the process of that, you are tuned in to source energy and you love it. And you can feel that wonderful stuff being drawn through you by the percentage of those who are reaching for something through you. You know what we're talking about. In other words, that function, that experience of teaching, that being in the mode of that always feels really good to you. There are aspects of it you don't like at all, that you can't control, that make you want to run screaming into the woods, because there are things you can't control. But you don't have to think about those, and you don't have to muddy up your own vibration by thinking about those. You have the ability to focus upon the aspects of what you're doing that feels good, until you purify your own vibration and get yourself on this trajectory with some momentum that will carry you. And there's a leverage that you will experience when you do that, that just will knock your socks off, because the energy that creates worlds is flowing to you and through you, and you're the only one who opens the nozzle and points it toward what you want, or who pinches it off. You're doing all of that with your day-to-day thoughts, you see. So these things we know about you. You've lived enough, you've been doing that long enough, you've put enough in the vortex that it is very well established. The trajectory is very well established. And you're not looking for some new trajectory. You have established it. What you're looking for is a means to align with the trajectory that you've got in motion. Because every bit of your joy is being on that path, and every bit of your discomfort is being off that path. Oh, it felt so good to say that to you. In other words, you're not wanting to depart big time from what you're on. You're just wanting to fill in with the subtle details and the nuances that you haven't been able to have access to because you've been making decisions not from that high-flying disc. Almost everybody decides that they want to be someplace else when they're not having a happy moment about where they are. And not one good idea is ever going to come from a dissatisfied moment. Not one good idea ever. You don't get good ideas from dissatisfied moments. Your good ideas come in your moments of ecstasy. Your good ideas come in your moments of rest and peace. Your good ideas come in your moments of alignment. Your good ideas come in your resonance with source, you see.
And is that why that made so much sense to me? Why sometimes a manifestation that is pretty big and totally surprises you, it's almost like source is giving you something you didn't know that you wanted. Like, for example, Esther drove this huge tour bus for so long, and then from what I saw on some DVDs, she all of a sudden found herself getting a little black sports car like a year ago, and now she would have never thought that she wanted that. And is that kind of the same thing? Like,
now you've hit on something really good, and this is the way this applies. In both cases, those were powerful machines. So the common denominator was the power, not the size. And that's sort of what we're talking about here. The common denominator is the energy, not the object of attention to which you are focusing it. You see?
Yeah.
Esther loves an engine open all the way. And so do all of you. In other words, you want to be tuned in. And once you've tasted, once she was behind the wheel of that monster bus, she could never be happy again in some wimpy little vehicle. But she didn't want to drive a great big old monster bus around, so she found a proportionately sized vehicle. And sometimes she just opens the garage door and turns it on and listens to the engine. But her favorite thing is to get it out on the highway and open it wide up. She was going through the immigration check from Arizona into California, and it was on one of her first trips across the desert in the car. And the men, who are always very austere and official, were like little boys when they saw her car, because you can see the engine. It's an Audi R8, and you can see the engine in the back window, and they were just beside themselves. They could hardly stand what they were seeing. And so she revved the engine just to give them a little thrill. And they said, "How fast will this go?" And Esther said, "Oh, I don't know." And then they looked in and saw the odometer. It goes really, really fast. And they said, "Do it, do it, do it, do it, do it." Esther said, "You'll come after me with your sirens." And they said, "No, there's no one out there. Really do it." And so Esther did it. She peeled out of there. She is 120 miles an hour shooting into the state, and they just were applauding because there is a higher power than the traffic laws of California. You see, and that's really what we're talking about, isn't it? In other words, when you find vibrational alignment with your true power, it dominates. It just does.